We live in a world where control has become the highest illusion. From the moment we are born, we are taught to hold on tightly, to shape our futures with certainty, to make life bend according to our plans. We are told that if we study enough, work enough, plan enough, we can master not only our own destiny, but even the forces of existence itself. Yet the very structure of life contradicts this belief. Existence flows in ways no one can predict, and no matter how tightly we cling, life unfolds according to its own rhythm. Think about how often we create detailed plans. A student maps out their entire career path, certain they will arrive at a particular destination by a certain age. A businessperson builds strategies, convinced they can control the rise and fall of markets. A family prepares their daily routines as though the next day will obey their schedules. But has life ever truly obeyed? Has it ever promised to follow your blueprints? Time and again, life throws in a surprise, a sudden illness, an unexpected opportunity, a chance encounter that changes everything. It is almost as if existence is gently laughing at our insistence on control. When we cling to the illusion of control, we create suffering. Imagine holding water in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away through your fingers. The more desperately you try to keep it, the less of it you hold. Life behaves in exactly this way. The harder we try to control each detail, the more restless and anxious we become, because reality does not fit itself into our plans. We fear failure, we fear change, we fear uncertainty, and all of this fear comes from the belief that things should go exactly as we imagine. But uncertainty is not a flaw in life. It is the very essence of life. Without uncertainty, there would be no adventure, no possibility, no surprise. Control is an illusion we invent to protect ourselves from the unknown. Yet the unknown is where all growth lives. It is where all love, creativity, and discovery emerge. Nobody has ever planned their greatest joys. They simply appeared. Falling in love was never penciled into a calendar. The most profound friendships, the turning points in life, the moments that truly defined you, they came when you weren't in control. Think about nature. Does the tree control how the wind moves through its branches? Does the ocean dictate the pattern of its waves? And yet they exist in harmony with the forces around them. They bend, they flow, they move with what is. But human beings, with our restless minds, believe we must dictate every current. We want the river to flow straight, even though its beauty lies in its curves. The illusion of control also gives birth to the obsession with perfection. We are terrified of making mistakes, of being wrong, of losing face. But the truth is, mistakes are not failures of control. They are expressions of life's unpredictability. They are the places where growth takes root, where learning happens, where humility is born. If life were truly under our control, if everything followed our commands, existence would be lifeless, mechanical, and utterly boring. It is precisely because we are not in control that life has mystery, spontaneity, and wonder. Consider how much of your body you do not control. The beating of your heart, the breath that moves in and out of your lungs, the flow of blood through your veins, the firing of neurons in your brain. These things happen without your permission. You cannot sit and demand your heart to beat faster or slower without external influence. It simply follows the rhythm of life itself. And yet, without realizing it, you are alive because of this lack of control. The very act of being is built upon surrender. Control is seductive because it offers a false sense of safety. We believe that if we can just hold the reins tightly enough, we can prevent pain, avoid disappointment, and guarantee happiness. But what happens instead is the opposite. We become rigid, tense, fearful of every small disruption. A delayed train becomes a catastrophe. A failed plan feels like the end of the world. A change in circumstances throws us into despair. Why? Because we believed the lie that life would conform to our design. When we loosen this illusion, when we begin to see that control is not real, a new kind of freedom emerges. Freedom not because life becomes easy, but because we stop fighting it. The storm still comes, but we no longer stand in resistance, trying to command the winds. We bend like the tree, we flow like the river, we move with life instead of against it. And in this movement, in this release of control, something remarkable happens. Joy arises naturally. When you begin to see life not as a strict duty, but as a play, something extraordinary happens. Suddenly, the weight you've been carrying begins to dissolve. We often live as though life were a courtroom where every action is judged and every mistake carries an eternal sentence. But if you really look closely, if you open your eyes to the mystery of existence, you will notice that nothing in the universe behaves with such seriousness. The stars do not burn because they must. The rivers do not flow because they were assigned to. The birds do not sing because a higher authority commanded them. They do it out of sheer expression, sheer play, sheer overflowing of life itself. Think about the child who runs in a field. The child does not demand a reward for laughter, nor does he ask, "What is the purpose of this?" He laughs because laughter arises. He runs because energy moves through him. This is the essence of the cosmic game. It is not a test, not a punishment, not a challenge you must endure. It is a great unfolding of being, and you are part of it, not as a worker trapped in a factory of destiny, but as a dancer in the rhythm of infinity. When you take life too seriously, you forget this playful essence. You become like someone watching a play but mistaking it for reality, gasping in fear at every twist in the story, clinging to characters as though they were not actors in disguise. Yet, if you step back, you realize it has always been a play. The laughter, the tears, the joy, the heartbreak, these are roles, movements in the dance, ripples on the surface of a vast ocean that never complains about the waves it creates. The ancient sages often compared life to a drama, a great theater where each of us is cast in a role for a short while. Some are kings, some are beggars, some are warriors, some are poets. But behind the costumes and the masks, there is the same actor, the same eternal presence wearing different faces. To take life too seriously is to believe the mask is permanent, to forget that you yourself are also playing a part. The moment you see the mask for what it is, a costume in a play, you suddenly feel the freedom to enjoy it, to weep when the scene demands it, to laugh when the script turns comical, and to bow gracefully when the curtain falls. And this is the beauty of the cosmic game. It has no rigid purpose other than to be. When you ask, "What is the point of all this?" you are still speaking from the mind that demands seriousness, that wants life to justify itself, like a worker must justify his wage. But life does not justify itself, it simply is. The flower does not explain its blooming, nor does the sun explain its shining. To exist is the point. To experience is the point. To live is the point. In every culture, in every tradition, you find echoes of this truth. The festivals where people dance in circles, the stories where gods play tricks, the myths where creation itself is described as laughter, music, or dream. These are not childish fantasies, they are reminders. They whisper to us that the universe is not a stern judge, but a playful artist. That the cosmos itself is less like a courtroom and more like a festival, and we are guests invited to dance. But what happens when we forget this? We clutch to our identities, we cling to our possessions, we argue over beliefs as though eternity depends on them, and in doing so, we miss the dance. We mistake the stage for the whole of reality and never notice the musicians in the background, never hear the laughter in the silence. Taking life too seriously is like watching a comedy and refusing to laugh because you are convinced it should have been a tragedy. You missed the very point. The cosmic game is not telling you to avoid responsibility. It is not saying that nothing matters. Rather, it is inviting you to see responsibility itself as play. Even the hard work, even the tears, even the struggles, they are all part of the unfolding drama. When you see them this way, you stop resisting them. You stop saying, "This should not be happening." You begin to move with them, like a dancer who does not complain about the music but finds rhythm in every note, even the dissonant ones. Look at the seasons. Winter does not argue with spring. The trees do not hold meetings to decide when to let their leaves fall. The ocean does not resist the tide. Everything flows in its own timing, and all of it is play. Why then do we, human beings, imagine ourselves to be the only exception? Why do we believe that our lives must always be calculated, justified, weighed, and measured? This is where we lose touch with the cosmic game. When you awaken to this, you no longer look at your life as a burden to endure. You see it as a story unfolding, full of colors, textures, and flavors. You begin to notice the little moments, a smile, a breeze, the sound of rain, as if they were gifts of the play itself. The laughter of a stranger, the warmth of a hand, the sparkle in someone's eye. All of these become threads in the tapestry of the game, and you realize you are not here to master the game, to win it, or to finish it. You are here to play. Every difficulty you face feels enormous in the moment. It feels permanent, heavy, as if the weight of it will press down forever. But notice how time reveals something remarkable. The very problems you once believed would break you have already dissolved into the past. The arguments that kept you awake at night, the worries that made your stomach twist, the failures that seemed like the end of everything. Where are they now? They are like yesterday's weather, storms that raged across the sky, but have now drifted beyond the horizon. The mind has a peculiar habit of exaggerating its troubles, of holding them under a magnifying glass, until they seem larger than life itself. Yet reality shows a different truth. Everything changes. Nothing stays fixed, not even the pain you carry today. Like a river, life keeps flowing. What seems unbearable in one season may, in another, feel like nothing more than a faded story you hardly remember. Think back to your childhood. Recall the worries that consumed you then, the fear of not fitting in, the panic of small failures at school, the sting of being left out. They were real to you then, as real as the ground beneath your feet. But now, looking back, you see them for what they were, passing clouds in an ever-shifting sky. And the same is true of your worries now. In time, they too will dissolve, leaving only the memory of having passed through them. Understanding impermanence does not mean you dismiss your struggles or pretend they don't matter. It means you see them in perspective. You recognize their nature. They are transient. Like waves on the ocean, they rise and fall. They may feel fierce when they crash upon you, but none of them stay forever.